The sound of history is not always a speech or a song. Sometimes, it is the terrifying crack of timber shattering against timber. It is the scream of 300,000 men echoing off the cliffs of a narrow strait. It is the sound of an empire dying, and a civilization being born, all in a single afternoon. The date is September 480 BC. The place is the narrow Strait of Salamis, a sliver of blue water separating the island of Salamis from the burning mainland of Greece. On the cliffs above, a king who calls himself a god sits on a golden throne. He has come to watch the end of the world. Below him, the sea is about to turn red. This is not just a battle. This is the moment where the fate of the West hangs by a thread no thicker than a rower's oar. If the Greeks lose here, there will be no Parthenon, no Socrates, no democracy, and the world as we know it will cease to exist before it has even truly begun. Welcome to the deadliest naval battle in the history of mankind. Welcome to Salamis. To understand the terror of this moment, we must first look at the ashes. Days before the fleets met, the unthinkable happened. Athens, the jewel of Greece, the city of wisdom and art, was gone. The great king Xerxes of Persia had marched his army, a force so massive it was said to drink rivers dry, right into the heart of the city. He burned the temples on the Acropolis. He slaughtered the priests who refused to leave. From the deck of their ships, the Greek sailors could smell the smoke of their own homes burning. They could see the orange glow lighting up the night sky. Panic was not just a feeling, it was a contagion. The Greek alliance was fracturing. The Spartans, fierce on land but hesitant at sea, wanted to retreat. They wanted to build a wall across the Isthmus of Corinth and hide behind it. They looked at the Persian fleet, 1,200 warships against the Greeks' 370, and they saw only death. The math was simple. The Persians had the numbers. They had the money. They had the momentum. But the Greeks had something else. They had a man who didn't play by the rules. Themistocles. Themistocles was not a king like Leonidas. He was a politician, a populist, a man of sharp wit and questionable morals. He knew that you do not fight a monster like the Persian Empire with honor. You fight them with a lie. He knew that on the open ocean, the heavy, tall Persian ships would swarm the smaller Greek fleet like wolves on a flock of sheep. But here, in the narrow straits of Salamis, where the water is less than 2 kilometers wide. Here, numbers meant nothing. Here, 1,200 ships would just be a traffic jam. Themistocles needed to lure the god king into the trap. And so, the night before the battle, he committed what looked like treason. He sent his most trusted slave, a man named Xerxes, across the dark water to the Persian camp. The message was simple and devastatingly clever. The slave told Xerxes, the Greeks are terrified. They are fighting among themselves. They plan to flee this very night. If you block the exits now, you can capture them all without lifting a finger. It was a lie wrapped in the truth. Xerxes, blinded by his own arrogance, took the bait. He ordered his fleet to launch immediately, in the dead of night. While the Greeks slept and prepared, the Persian sailors spent the entire night rowing, patrolling the exits, searching for a fleeing enemy that wasn't there. By the time the sun rose over the Aegean, the Persian army was exhausted, sleep-deprived, and drifted out of formation. And then, the morning came. Imagine the scene. As the first light hit the water, the Persians rowed into the strait. They expected to see the backs of fleeing Greek ships. Instead, they heard a terrifying sound. The paean. The Greek war song. Thousands of voices chanting in unison, echoing off the rocky hills. O sons of the Greeks, go! Free your fatherland, free your children, your wives, the shrines of your fathers' gods, and the tombs of your ancestors. Now is the struggle for all things. The trap was sprung. But the Greeks did not attack immediately. This was the second part of Themistocles' genius. As the massive Persian armada squeezed into the bottleneck, the Greeks began to row backward. They kept their prows facing the enemy, but they reversed water, pulling deeper and deeper into the bay. To the Persians, it looked like fear. They surged forward, their lines collapsing, ship crowding against ship, eager for the kill. Suddenly, the wind changed. The morning breeze from the sea, known to the locals but unknown to the invaders, began to whip up the waves. The tall, heavy Persian ships, with their high decks and clumsy maneuvers, began to rock violently. The lower, sleeker Greek triremes, built for these waters, remained stable. Then, the signal was given. The Greek left wing moved. A single ship, commanded by Amanias of Pallene, broke the line. The oarsmen rowed with a fury born of desperation. The drumbeat accelerated, ramming speed. The physics of a trireme attack are brutal. The ship is essentially a guided missile, a wooden projectile tipping the scales at 40 tons, armed with a massive bronze battering ram at the prow. When Amanias' ship struck the leading Phoenician vessel, the sound would have been like a thunderclap. Wood splintered. Bronze tore through the hull. The Persian ship shuddered and began to scream as the sea rushed in. That impact was the spark that ignited the inferno. The entire Greek line surged forward. In the confined space of the strait, the Persian numerical advantage became their death sentence. They had no room to maneuver. When a Persian ship tried to turn to face an attacker, it would crash into its own ally. Oars sheared off, leaving ships drifting helplessly like logs. The Greek triremes were surgical. They would dash in, shear off a bank of enemy oars, leaving the Persian ship spinning, and then ram it amidships. The bronze rams punched holes in the hulls, backing away to let the ocean do the rest. The water of the strait became a slurry of wreckage and bodies. And here lay the grim reality of ancient naval warfare. The Persians and their allies, the Medes, the Phoenicians, wore heavy armor and few could swim. When their ships capsized, they didn't just fall into the water, they fell into their graves. They were dragged down to the dark bottom of the Aegean by the weight of their own protection. The Greeks, wearing light armor and fighting in their home waters, could swim to the friendly shore of Salamis if their ships went down. In the center of the chaos was the Persian flagship. Queen Artemisia, the only female commander in Xerxes' fleet, found herself trapped. Pursued by an Athenian ship, and blocked by her own allies, she did the unthinkable. She rammed a friendly Persian vessel, sinking it with all hands, to clear a path for her escape. Watching from the cliffs, Xerxes thought she had sunk a Greek ship and exclaimed, "My men have become women, and my women have become men." By mid-afternoon, the great fleet of Asia was a broken ruin. The sea was so clogged with wreckage that the remaining Persian ships couldn't even retreat properly. They were hunted down, one by one. The Greek marines, heavily armed hoplites, leaped from deck to deck, slaughtering the confused and terrified crews. The elite Persian immortals, the most feared soldiers in the world, were stationed on a small island nearby to kill any shipwrecked Greeks. Instead, they found themselves surrounded and cut down to the last man. As the sun began to set, the water of the strait had changed color. It was no longer the deep blue of the Aegean. It was a thick, crimson sludge of blood and oil. From his high throne, Xerxes stood up. He tore his royal robes in anguish. He had watched his invincible armada, the bridge between Asia and Europe, be reduced to driftwood. The psychological blow was harder than the military one. The God King had been humbled by a group of squabbling city-states. The aftermath was absolute. The Persians lost over 200 ships. The Greeks, fewer than 40. Xerxes, fearing that the Greeks would now sail to the Hellespont and destroy the bridge of boats he used to cross from Asia, ordered a retreat. He left a portion of his army behind, but the threat was broken. The invasion was effectively over. It is hard to overstate what happened that day. If Themistocles had failed, if the trap had not worked, Greece would have burned. There would be no golden age of Athens. The concepts of trial by jury, of philosophy, of tragedy and comedy, of the scientific method, seeds that were just beginning to sprout, would have been crushed under the sandal of a totalitarian empire. We are the heirs of Salamis. The way we think, the way we govern, the way we question the world, it was all purchased with the blood of those rowers in that narrow strait. Themistocles, the hero of the hour, died in exile years later, a victim of the very democracy he saved. But his legacy is written in the map of the world. History is often decided by the big battalions, but sometimes, just sometimes, it is decided by a clever trap, a favorable wind, and the desperate courage of free men fighting with their backs to the wall. But Salamis was not the only time the weak stood against the strong on the water. Centuries later, on the other side of the world, another small nation would face a Mongol horde, using not a narrow strait, but a river of stakes. But that is a story for another time. If you want to see how wooden stakes defeated the Mongol Empire at the Battle of Bakhtang, or witness the last great crusade at Lepanto, make sure you are subscribed. The sea has many more stories to tell, and the tide is just coming in.